keep going. That was awesome. Thank you. Oh, wow. Do, 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 do. It's a way to get it going, right? So, good morning. My topic this morning is taking your first steps on your path to success. Ah, yes. How many of us remember our first steps? Right, I know, zero. The only way I know about my first steps is my mom used to tell me over and over, well, not over and over, but quite a few occasions, because, we are as adults, we're curious. Well, who were we when we were like this tall or this? We have no idea. The only way we relate to that is through our parents. So one day I can remember asking my mom, because my brother was having kids and we were all trying to figure out what age everybody was going to walk. Well, I walked at 8 months. Yeah, I better clarify that, right? So, anyway, how I started out, which is I find it a little humorous. So my mom, my paternal grandparents lived out in the valley. I lived in Glendale. They lived out in Northridge, Reseda area of California. And so it was a big ordeal for us to go out there, just me and my parents. So mom was packing and trying to get for the day because it's an hour trip. And this is now before the freeway went in. So all this, yes, so all the surface streets were available. Took a little longer. So anyway, mom had her arms loaded with stuff, and she's thinking, okay, can't take the baby. What do I do? Oh, I know. She can't walk yet, but she can stand. So I'm just going to prop her up against the bed, and she's pretty much there. So my mom scooped up the stuff she was doing, and she started walking down the little hallway towards, the front door. And all of a sudden, she heard this. Doot, 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 doot. She turned around and she screamed, "Ronald! Do you know what?" That was my dad. "Do you know what your daughter's doing?" And I, of course, looking at her like, "What's the big deal?" And I instantly plopped down and started laughing. And my mom, of course, was like, "Oh my gosh." My dad, of course, is coming in, going, "Okay, what did she do now?" And she goes, "She walked. She walked." Yes, I know. It was really cool. And so from then on, they knew they were in trouble. And from then on, I did not change. I kept walking. In fact, I wanted to let you all know that I was a Mario Andretti at crawling. So they had to know that eventually that I was going to do the same when I walked. So what I want to ask all of you is, yes, I know that we don't really remember when we took our first steps, but when did we take our first steps into something that we really wanted and were so afraid to do it? Now, I thought about when we actually do take our first steps as children, we're totally free. We have no concept of fear. We have no concept of, oh, we might fall down or bump our heads or do something crazy. We just toddle along and we do it. But as adults, when we are approached with something that we think, oh, wow, I want to do that. I want to take my first step, maybe. Maybe. Let me think about this. I really want this. I really want to be successful at this, but let me think about it. What happens is we get into this fear mode. We get into this I'm not enough mode, and the story just keeps going and going. So I thought this week, what does fear actually mean? Oh my gosh, did I find a plethora of a list of all the acronyms that fear engages in? And I thought some of them were interesting. But what is most important is how fear is activated in our life when we want to go towards that goal of whatever it is. Now, mind you, we do have that mind of, I want to be successful. Oh, and there's that little word called conditions. In order to be successful, then I have to be this, or I have to do that, or this has got to be done. No. What would it look like to be successful, to just throw caution to the wind and allow yourself just to step forward blindly into it and know that whatever else is going on is going to support you? What does that feel like? To be free, to be unlimited, to know that whatever the universe is, it's conspiring for you to do whatever you have decided in your brain, in your mind, that you want to achieve. You know, so often fear represents a few of these things, and I'm sure you all can identify with it. False evidence appearing real. Oh, we give ourselves these wonderful excuses of, well, this right here proves that I can't do it. Really? Really? Has it been proven? Well, no. You don't know until you try. You don't know until you try. False evidence against reality. What is really real? What is your real? What is the universe's real? What is this real? Why are you giving yourself such an explanation that, yes, it is this. Oh, it is real. It's tangible. Yeah, it is. Probably not. I love this one. Face everything and recover. We face our fears. We step into it, and whatever happens, we know that we can gather forces together, which is usually the God source, and land on our feet. This is a good one too. Forgetting everything is all right. Yes, yes. So often we don't realize that everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right, right? We sing it, right? So don't forget that no matter what happens, everything is going to be all right. Now here's the one I underlined. Failure to engage in the almighty relationship. Almighty being God. Forgetting about God, putting it on the sideline, just saying, yeah, I'll deal with it later. I don't really need source right now. I'm fine. What good does it do me to believe? What good does it to create that relationship? Because I really don't feel like it right now. I don't really feel it. I feel that it's somewhere out here and I'm right here and I don't feel any help. So that's what we call separation. When we decide to push that God energy out, it's here, but for whatever reason, we decide that no, we have to push it away. And if you really look at that, you're probably pushing away your people too. In the same way you're pushing away God, the way you're pushing away love, which is what God is. Okay, now it's getting better. Feeling excited and ready. Yeah, feeling excited and ready. Fighting ego against reality. Da, 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 da. Forgive everyone and relax. Yes. The last one, forget everything and run. That's my favorite, right? So all of these tend to lean into another little word. I'm all full of acronyms today, so you guys got lots of spiritual tools to go home with. Is failure. And failure is just another acronym for first attempt at learning. Failure is not a bad thing. Failure is, as I said, first attempt in learning. I remember when I was a little kid. What did I do? I touched something hot. Oh, yeah, that burns. Don't we all have that? We've had an experience of where, oh, I'm not going to go there anymore. That was an experience that I don't want to deal with. So what happens is we look at those failures and then they start to pile up in our lives. Failure, as I said again, is first attempt at learning. But in our mind, for whatever reason, as I said, we pile them up against us, saying, well, then obviously I can't do this. I'm not very good at that. Why try? Oh gosh, the absolute reasons you all can come up with, I can come up with for not doing something. Then there's another little word that I won't talk about today, but it's called procrastination. It gives you fuel for that too. So what happens when we have that thing that we feel that we're not so good at? Well, what would happen if we turned it around and we said, you know what, I do believe and I know I can do this. It might take me a few times. I mean, look at, I've used this example before. Look at the oh gosh, now it just flew out of my brain. Kitty Hawk, you know those guys. Yes, okay, so you know who it is. How many times did they try with an airplane? Several. They crashed and burned, but they didn't give up. They kept going until they could soar. So Ernest Holmes says, like faith, fear may be conscious or subconscious or subjective. And if it is to be eliminated, it must be removed both consciously and subjectively. I'm talking about faith. Faith which overrides fear, faith overrides failure, faith pretty much overrides everything. The only thing about faith is it's hope. And I want to talk to you a little about that hope. Hope is, it's like a wish. Well, I hope it's going to come true. I hope we can do this. So it's like a wish. So in the science of mind, we don't wish. We accept and know. That's all there is. We get stubborn about it too. We accept and know. There is no other way that this can be done. I accept and know that it's already done. I already know it's done in the mind of God, which is my mind, so it has to work through me as me. You know, we say and so it is for a reason, because it is a declaration. Whenever we get done praying or whatever it is, we always say, and so it is, because we know it is, because we accept that that's all it can be. That's the only way it is. And so it is. When we declare that it is, we are working with this amazing energy, this energy that is out here and it's in here. And when we say, and so it is, we are declaring, we are speaking our word, and we are putting it out, and we're saying this and only this. So I dare each and every one of you to speak your word and declare something so. Know exactly what you want, know exactly where it's going, and you say, and so it is. So there. Right? So there. Scott Aubrey, who has this wonderful, wonderful website called Spiritual Passages, he said, the whole universe is on your side, guiding your hands and directing your footsteps in the way you go. Literally, Spirit goes before us to make the crooked way straight and the darkness light. The rough places are made smooth. You are God's living enterprise, and God cannot fail. There can be no failure in spirit. Think about it. If we, or not if, we are all particles of God. We are all particles of this energy, this amazing, amazing flow in the world. So if we are part of that and it continues to create, how can we be anything less than? We're not. But we have this wonderful human condition that says we are. Put it in the can and take it out with the garbage. You are not less than. You are not diminished. And I understand that when we have things go in our lives and we feel less than or diminished, how can we pick ourselves up and, as they say, dust ourselves off and start all over again? We have that power and we have that choice to do that. It all depends on whether you want to or not. That's called choice. What about choice? We have that choice to know exactly what we want in our lives. We also have the choice of accepting and knowing that whatever the power and the presence is right here walks through us, goes through us, flows through us as us. As again, I said, when you speak your word, it has to activate. It's like all the little energy particles go, okay, we're here. We're at attention. What is it that this human desires? And whatever it is, it will most likely come to you. Now, there is this thing called divine time. We always like to say, can I have it tomorrow? Exactly. And the powers that be says, you'll get it when it's ready. And the reason why sometimes it takes a while is because we have to experience something out here. We have to grow. We have to look. We have to experience whatever it is. And then the universe, all of a sudden, everything starts opening up. And we often wonder, why do things start opening up at this particular time in our life? Because you have reached that threshold. You have crossed over and said, oh, now I get it. This is why I experienced this. Okay. Not only does it go on the, okay, I don't have to do that again list, but it also goes on the empowerment list. This or something better will always carry me through. This or something better will always create something for me to experience so that I continually grow spiritually and mentally. And so Meister Eckhart said, if you focus too narrowly on a single path to God, all you will ever find is the path. If you focus too narrowly on a single path to God, all you will ever find is the path. Now, I'm not saying that is in regards to a faith tradition. No. Doesn't mean that you have to follow a certain dogma. It means that if you stay focused on one thing and not just a spiritual path, you stay focused on one thing, you're missing out on a whole bunch of other stuff. God is so unlimited, and we have so much that we can learn from being on not just one path, but several paths. And I know that is sort of disruptive with the way things are sort of in the world right now. It's like, okay, you have to believe this particular way. Why? There's so many books that are written on faith or religious dogma. And yet, I always find it fascinating because they all speak the same language. They're all talking about the same God. They just all have a different pathway. But if we stay on that one path and we remain closed, then we're closed off to everything that's going around us. And that seems a little crazy, doesn't it? Just to stay focused on one thing. Except the exception is the God light within us. You know, when we tend to focus on different things in our lives and sidelined, we sidelined our friends, we sideline our families, and sometimes our hobbies and things that we really like to do. There was a point in my life where I was married a few times, and this one particular husband was a professional archer. So when I got married to him, I didn't realize that the marriage license included to be in the archery competition. So, yeah, so I learned, I had never shot a bow in my life. I had no idea what archery was. So anyway, what happened is he said, okay, well, I want you to be a competitive archer with me. And I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be fun. Da, 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 da. Oh, man. I signed up for it. Anyway. Yeah. So anyway, archery was a lot of fun. Um, I learned a great deal about the sport, and I became a competitive archer. What it created for me was a conflict, because every morning I had to get up and shoot 144 arrows. And every night before I went to bed, I had to shoot 144 arrows. Yes. So I had to get those arrows in every single day, plus other things that you do as an archer. And I had to really, 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 really focus on this because I was going to compete. So I shot a bow that's considered a compound bow, and I always thought it looked like something out of Star Wars because it had pulleys and different things. It just wasn't a piece of wood that you pull back the thing and go twing. No, it was very complicated. Anyway, so I shot fingers, which is, well, it's freestyle limited. So what happens is you shoot with your fingers. You don't have what they now have, these little doohickeys called a release. So it does all the work for you. All you have to go ping and the arrow goes. I had to actually pull back the bow, pull it back, and then release the arrow. So there's lots of human error in that. So anyway, I did this for quite a few years. And church had always been in my life. It was part of me. It was always something I did on Sunday. Well, unfortunately, over the years, the competitive part of archery was always on Saturday and Sunday. So I had to step away from that life, my spiritual life. I had to sideline God, so to speak. And that was very hard for me. Meanwhile, I'm gathering awards for a state competition of California, so I'm the state champion of California. I'm also the national champion of the United States, and I'm also a world champion. Yes, yes, yes. So I competed and I did that for several years. And finally, I found that there was this one little book one day that fell off into my, and it wasn't, trust me, I know the universe did this. It was a little paperback book, and it's called The Zen of Archery. And so I learned that I could meditate at the same time I was shooting those 144 arrows. And it became something that saved me, because I could know God through every single arrow, not only within myself, but within what was going into that target, that energy. So eventually, like everything, the marriage ended, and so did the archery. I still have the bow and the arrows sitting quietly in a corner of my house, constantly looking at me like, am I going to do this again? Oh, no. No. But what it has is it reminds me of where I was and where I have been and where I have come to. It changed my life. It changed a lot of things in my life. And so what happened is I was able to get back into the church. That was the first thing I did. Wham! I was back into the church. So happy to get back. You know, most people would say when they're going through divorce or a big, huge life change, they would say that their life is falling apart. Well, actually, if we look at it, everything is really conspiring to support me. Everything was coming together, even though I could have said, okay, I lost this, I lost that, and blah, blah, blah. But actually, God was going, I'm cleaning the slate. You're starting over here. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit wonky for a while, but it's going to be okay. The roads we take, much like what Dorothy did in The Wizard of Oz, are not straight. She started out with a swirl at the top and she started making her steps. And what she was actually stepping into was a transition and a discovery of who she really was, who she was as a human, as a person. Those were her steps that she walked into. The roads that we look at, yes, are bumpy, but yes, they're also filled with so much amazing things. So I want to do a brief little exercise with you. And it's about those bumps and about looking at what happens in our life a little differently. So I'd like to invite you to think back on some of the challenging times in your life. I know there are many. I'm with you. The bumps and the circumstances where you felt particularly sad or angry about what happened. Now think about the people that were there with you. Those that also came in that maybe you never knew, but arrived to be with you, to guide you. Now, breathe. Allow yourself to breathe. Now, think about the person or persons in that circumstance that caused you to have negative feelings about the situation you were in. And breathe again. You, me, all of us are past whatever happened at that time. And we had an interesting experience. Now, I want you to shift something for me. I want you to think of that person or persons as a helper or an ally. It's interesting because we often think of those people that have hurt us in horrific ways as the devil or the most evil person in the whole world. But what would it be, or how, or now? Now, look at that person as a helper, as an ally. Yeah, they've been prodding and poking us, but really sit with the fact that they are an ally. Because of that person or persons or whatever situation it was, you are experiencing something new. You were poked and you were prodded and you were pushed to the point where yes, you were angry and you were probably had a multiple of pisiosity. But because of that person, you are in a new experience. I could look at my ex-husband like a real jerk. But I can also look at him now as if I hadn't experienced the things that I did with him, even though they were negative and they hurt and I was lost and I didn't know what I was going to do, I'm standing here today in front of you because of that situation. Because it pushed me and it created strength. It empowered me to look at my life in a different lens, to say, yes, I can do this. So let's look at those people in a different light, as allies, as helpers, and bless them and say thank you. And we've learned. And we've learned a huge lesson about love, God's love. You know, the one thing about all our situations is that we were listening. We were listening to that still small voice that propelled us forward. That's why we're here. It's one of my favorite quotes is by Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "A person is like a tea bag. You never know how strong they are until they hit hot water." And so with that, let us turn within. Just allow ourselves to just breathe into this moment and breathe out, letting go, releasing. And as we release and we breathe in again, we breathe in love. We breathe in success. We breathe in God. Understanding and knowing that every particle of our being is that beautiful, beautiful particle of love, which I call and name God. I accept it as it is. And what I accept also is that for each and every one of us here and into the world, we look at our life through a lens of what is my next greater yet to be. Whatever it is that I have learned from whatever situation, I know that I am empowered. I'm amazing. I can continue to go in the flow because it's all love. And so it is with great gratitude that I know that as we together experience as a spiritual community, we experience each other as allies, as helpers into the next greater yet to be, into the next greater yet to be of this day, of this week, of this month, of this year, of this life. This and so much more, I am so truly grateful. And so I know it to all be so. As I release and let it go, as together we say, and so it is.
Let me